A Minot man charged with killing his former roommate will stand trial more than 3 years after her death. The courts have rescheduled the murder trial for 30-year-old Shawnee Krall to January 2nd in Minot. Krall faces a murder charge in the December 2020 death of 29-year-old Alice Carollo. Krall was supposed to stand trial last week, but the courts granted a motion from his then attorney to withdraw. Last week, we reported that Krall now faces separate charges of possession of a weapon by an inmate after correction staff said they found homemade weapons in his jail cell. He'll be arraigned on the new charges November 2nd.